Welcome, our dear guests, distinguished speakers. Welcome to Indonesia Pavilion. Thank you for your presence. I hope you all are well and thrilled to join in our discussion today because we will be talking about education. So one of the key role in driving transition to a sustainable future is environment education. And that includes people's knowledge, attitudes, behavior towards the climate change. And one of the strategies presented by MOEF or KLHK is to strengthen the capacity of human resources to adapt and mitigate climate change at the community level through formal and informal education. So today we'll be talking on building climate resilient community through formal and informal education. And we will commence the session by presenting to you a keynote video which will be delivered by the Head of Extension and Human Resources Development Agency, BP2SDM, from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to all participants. Greeting from Jakarta. On behalf of Ministry of Environment and Forestry Republic of Indonesia, I would like to welcome you to our talk show, Building Climate Resilience Communities Through Formal and Informal Education. I'm very delighted to that Agency of Extension and Human Resource Development, Ministry of Environment and Forestry can be a part of this important event. Environmental education is a powerful tool in mitigation and adapting climate change issues. By education people through formal and informal education, people will be more aware, capable, and powerful to a part of solutions. It is very encouraging to see how government, academia, business, and civil society hand in hand put attention and support in environment capacity building for people. I'm proud to convey that for the last 4 decades, Indonesia has reached significant progress in environmental education development. This concept was introduced in Indonesia in the mid of 1970s. Since then, there are more than 100 Center for Environmental Studies has been developed in universities all over Indonesia. In 2006, Ministry of Environmental has established Adiwiyata, Indonesia Green School Program. Started with 10 schools in 6 provinces. Now we have around 28,000 Adiwiyata schools in 34 provinces. We have been working closely with Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, Ministry of Religion Affairs and Ministry of Home Affairs since 2016. Together with business sectors, we have initiated programs such as developing modules, games, school assistant, training, and for teachers. Finally, I would like to appreciate all of the speakers and participants who attend this hybrid meeting. We look forward for further collaboration developing environmental education related climate change issue. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yes, we're extremely delighted to have speakers across borders to talk about building a climate resilient communities because it's all about collaboration. So let's invite all 4 speakers on stage, being the first one, Ibu Sinta Saptarina Sumiarno. She's the head of Center for Development of Environment and Forest Regeneration Development, as well as Dr. Wong Sok, a representative from ASEAN Secretariat, and also co-founder and chairperson of Emirates Environmental Group, Ms. Habiba Al-Marashi. My apology if I mispronounce your name. I hope it's correct. Thank you. Lastly, Vice Chairperson of Bhakti Barito Foundation, Ms. Dian Anis Purbasari. Please put our hands together for all speakers. And of course, to lead the session, please welcome the Deputy Head for the Center of Environment and Forestry Generation Development MOEF, Ibu Susi Herawati.
Thank you, Ibu Desmona, for for introducing our program. Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, Indonesia time. Good afternoon also from Dubai. We are here. We have 4 speakers, and I'm sorry, Dr. Song. This is very gender imbalance. So this is girl power. Okay, today we will talk about building climate resilient communities through formal and informal education. And we have 4 speakers here. Maybe we can start with Ibu Sinta. Ibu Sinta will discuss about Adiwiyata and Gemilang program. It's education from informal and informal education from Ministry of Environment, Republic Indonesia. Ibu Sinta, you have 11 minutes actually, and then I can give you sign if it is almost due. Time is yours, Ibu Sinta.
It's too soon. Sampai, okay. Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for having us here in this room. Thank you the speakers for coming to our session. We would like to share how formal education and also informal education is really important role to change our lifestyle to be a green lifestyle. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Indonesian government strongly support, strongly commit to the development of environmental education. And this is marked by our attendance to the international forums such as the UN Conference of the Environment in Stockholm in 1972. And another 5 years later, Indonesian Institution for Teacher, which is IKIP Jakarta, became a pioneer by creating the environmental education teaching program for 15 elementary school. And another 2 years, there were 86 university in Indonesia had Center of Environmental Studies. And in 1996, we do have MOU, close relation from Ministry of Environment with Ministry of Education. Then in 2004, another ministry became engaged, which are Ministry of Home Affairs and Ministry of Religion. And we are glad here to share with you the lesson learned, how we develop our formal education in environment, which is Adiwiyata program. So in 2006, we start with 10 schools. And syukur alhamdulillah, right now in 2023, 17 years later, we right now have 28,270 schools. It's quite big, and also this is the help of local government. So we are very pleased to have this cooperation. So basically, the Adiwiyata or Indonesian Green School Program is a collective action carried out by the community of schools, and it's implementing environmental friendly behavior and also environmentally friendly activities, which is held voluntary network, sustainable base, organized by us, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic Indonesia. There are 3 objectives. The first one, the school community become agent of change on environmental friendly behavior. The second one, we're trying to increase the number of schools that have a movement of environmental care and culture at school. And lastly is improving the quality of environment itself. So basically there is 5 big activities. First one, of course, developing the environmental learning material. The second one, increasing our partner, which are the active role of the student educator and educational staff. The third one, our partner, local government. The fourth one, we would like to increase networking with the business sector, the NGO, and the international institution, like we are doing right now. And also, last not least, awarding. We give awarding to formal education unit or school for the national scope. We involve the presidents or the minister of environment and also minister of education to give an award. But for the regional scope, the award will be given by mayor and etc. So there is 6 aspects of Adiwiyata that we are evaluate. First one is clean environment, sanitation, drainage. The second one is waste management. The third one, how the school has to nurturing and plant the trees. The fourth one, water conservation. The fifth one is energy conservation. The last one is innovation. So basically the school has to have 3 stages. The first one is the planning. The school has to have identification how they are doing well with the environmental manner things. The second one involve all the communities of the school, principal, council, committee, student, and the community, and also integrate that plan to the learning or school education unit level. So the next year will be implementation, which are implementation the 6 aspect Adiwiyata, implementing how the sustainable behavior of the communities, expand the networking and communication, campaign and education, and also establish the empower the Adiwiyata cadre. And the last is monitoring and evaluation involved by official committee, council, students, and community. So this is the growth of Adiwiyata School. By the end of this year, on December, we do have all the data of 5,676 in our database, or we call CDA, System Information Data of Adiwiyata. But overall, with the local Adiwiyata school, it will be, there are 28,270 schools. And from that database, we can measure how impact to the environment quality. For example, in 2023, within 551 schools, we can reduce waste 66%. We can water saving 70%. We can reduce electricity saving 90%. We plant 940,000 trees. We have 25,000 biopore holes, and we have like almost 100,000 Adiwiyata cadre. And this is like, this is for the example, they have hydroponic for the rain harvesting, they have composting, tree plant, biopore, canteen without a single-use plastic, and others. So yeah, for example, this is one of the senior high school in Center Java. They also goes to ASEAN Eco School Award. Thank you for Dr. Song that we are invited in the ASEAN Regional Awarding. So they like make mini water wheels, solar cell panel, windmills, and etc. Of course, they also helping the community around the school with the biodigester process from the waste soybean food products. This is the small scale industry that the school involves them to help for the pollution. Okay, and this is another school. I think I will skip this one. And yeah, if Adiwiyata is approaching by formal education system, we also do have movement for communities based, which is informal approach. So we call Gemilang, Indonesian Community Movement for Environment Protection. Basically, this is a collective action carried out by a community in implementing environmental friendly activities and behavior. Also, this is voluntary, network, and sustainable based. Basically, there are three activities: capacity building for environmental protection, creativity, environmental innovation for the community, and also environmental practice assistant. So this is all what we are doing. Actually, the objective, first of all, enhancing environmental action driven by community and institution, increase the number of community and institution. And the third one is supporting climate village program, which are strengthening climate change adaptation by local and knowledge climate change and adaptation and mitigation effort. So we do have national determined contribution to be targeted, and the president also mentioned that in 2024 we will be target to have 20,000 village by the climate village program. So this is the end of my presentation. Basically, what we need most is how pentahelix collaboration needed among the government, among the academician, among the media, business sector, and also the society itself. The society will be the agent of change, will be conducting the movement. So we do have to get together to have the synergy. And also there are three more actions that we need to do. The first one is we welcoming every corporation. Thank you, Ms. Habibah, for coming. We are starting the collaboration with the international NGO here. Thank you for Dr. Song for having here. We are planning to have regional green campus thing in the ASEAN collaboration things. And also we would like to continuous monitoring, evaluating, reviewing our program to accelerate the change of our environmental friendly behavior and environmental action. Also, we need to develop the capacity building and technical assistance, of course, for the strengthening the student, educator, and the staff. Also to enhance the technology information to improving our database system. And also we are need to developing regulation, policy, guideline, and etc. I think that's all my presentation. I hope it's still in time, Ibu Susi. Again, thank you for coming. Please contact us at any time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Sinta. You are right in time. And we have another speaker, Dr. Fong Sok. Dr. Fong from Head of Environment Division of ASEAN Secretariat, and he will discuss about regional cooperation in supporting development of EE to control climate change in Southeast Asia. Dr. Fong, the time is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I think it's my great pleasure to join you all and great honor as well as a man among the 4 beautiful ladies. It's amazing. This is to illustrate one of the achievements that the lady lead made a great success with the Green Eco School, Green School program of Indonesia, 5,000 plus, and then coming more. Congratulations. I'm very great honor to learn about this sort of new development, and it's long before ASEAN Eco School program. This is quite amazing sort of initiative by the government of Indonesia and your leadership in your ministry. This is amazing. I'm really proud of all that sort of development, and also the upcoming and the priority Green Compass. This is one of the most promising that we all join hands to make quite important for not only informal education, but this really important translate the idea to action. Now I'm talking here, it's not about representative the man only, but represent ASEAN, which is try to be with you all. I'm so not a man only, so I'm just ASEAN with you. So with that, I just would like to share is ASEAN sort of cooperation, environmental education, contribute to climate action. So I have 5 points here for you to learn today is about ASEAN state of climate change, where we are at right now, and also how we can address this environment climate change. And then particularly environmental education and a few key messages for way forward as well. So I may not be highlighting much, but I just would like to say we are most vulnerable region in the planet. I think it's with our big population and also the urban sort of population around and flood and flood prone area as well. So all of this is quite affected, and GHG emissions contribute important from our region. I think I just want to say it's simple word. And also we as a country rely on the primary sector very much. I think it's all people still rely on agriculture, rely on the non-timber forests and so on. So with that, I think it's all that we need to build. It's about how to build this sort of real resilient society, community, which is contribute quite important to national and regional sort of economy. So with that, ASEAN come together issue, all ASEAN member states come together with this sort of ASEAN joint statement that join hand with the UNFCCC COP every year to provide our view and our position and our way forward to join this international commitment. So as you can see here, the joint statement on climate change acknowledge clear role about the key player, particularly youth and children in the addressing climate change, and also in the different sort of implement policy and strategy as well in the climate change action in the respective level and country. Well, this must be a key important reference for your information. ASEAN guided by the policy document, ASEAN Social Cultural Community Blueprint 2025, which is really important ASEAN community that is people-centered approach and social responsive. I mean, with that, I mean, environmental education is play important role. Why we are very different? Because education is quite important as a part of human society. One of the big things different from other living thing on this planet because of education. So education makes us different. So that's why, I mean, from ASEAN sort of social cultural blueprint, recognize this important ASEAN as a part of people-centered and social responsible. With that, ASEAN also have the ASEAN Declaration on the adoption of the ASEAN Youth in Climate Action and Disaster Resilient Day. This is in line with the sort of what we call about this resilience. And also during 2021, Brunei also as ASEAN chairmanship at that time also have the ASEAN Youth Camp. We provide opportunity for youth to join, a dialogue with the ASEAN Minister on Environment about the youth future and so on. And also we have, during the COVID and straight away after post-COVID ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework, which among other mentions about the resilient capacity that ASEAN need to do. All of this is a key policy document to inform you that your local national initiative with urban or city and community resilience is really in line with ASEAN priority. This is not about the old document, which is very new, that we all need to prepare every level of ASEAN people to make it different. Now, in order to achieve all this, this is the key priority program of environment cooperation. We have 7 priority programs: nature conservation, biodiversity, coastal marine, and so on. So I'm saying these 7 priorities, it's not elaborate in more detail on different window, which is haze and peatland, which is treated under the ASEAN Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution. So this I just try to highlight only a general environmental matter, because you may have noted that environmental matter is quite broad, from underground up to the sky, from the east to west, north to south, so no limited, so from the micro to the macro level. For that reason, depend upon the way how you look at that, but this is the way ASEAN prioritize and focus 7 priorities to guide our implementation as the key priority in our ASEAN region. One of the fundamental key priority is environmental education, sustainable consumption, production. We believe this is one of the drivers to make society better. This, in order to make it work, these 7 priorities, we have governance, specific governance system of ASEAN to guide this sort of discussion and also advance the or acceleration of our action in our region. So now we talk all this. I think now I'm talking about the climate change cooperation. There are different sort of priority on climate change as well. Today under the Malaysian chair, it's not there. I think it's about 3 years from 2024 onward. From 2023 onward, there's a 3-year chairmanship. So we have 8 thematic areas for the environment, for the climate change cooperation. I mean, you can see from climate adaptation, the long-term planning assessment, climate change mitigation, up to the technology transfer. So how it fits the climate resilience? Climate resilience is about the climate adaptation, which is on the core, first core thematic area, climate change adaptation, risk management, and so on. So this is the way ASEAN tries to prioritize from the climate change lens, where we can do better for the people engagement. Here all the reference material for you to consult if you would like to know for more detail about the ASEAN climate and resilience sort of aspect. And now I'm talking about environmental education. As you can see from the early slide, environmental education one of the priority area, and now chaired by the Cambodia. So we have 4 programmatic area. One is about ASEAN Eco School Program. Second, ASEAN Green Higher Education Program. The third is about Regional Communication Education Public Awareness Initiative. And the 4 on the Sustainable Consumption Production. So with the ASEAN Eco School Program, I think you may have learned from the Indonesian Green Education Program, Green School Program. It's really, really similar kind of thing. We look at the 4 components of the priority, look at the policy planning level, where the school have to do something better from planning and procedure in the school to make it better for environmental, climate sort of friendly. And then go to different sort of people sort of action, the school, parent, teacher, that need to be action oriented toward something more better for the green and climate sort of proof and so on. And then we come to the practical curriculum study, engagement in the implementation of those initiatives with the community, tree planting, solid waste management, recycle, and so on and so forth. So the principle and concept is more or less the same. Eco School, that ASEAN recognize Eco School and provide Eco School as a word to champion schools who are doing the best, and also not only address the classic environmental issue, but also cope with emerging environmental issues such as, you know, air pollution or plastic issue, that they need to learn not only the classic approach to plant the tree and try to create renewable energy, try to save energy, but also try to engage, do all the activity that which is considered important, and they are on top of the game as well. So this just to illustrate the Eco School Award and also Eco School program for your reference. I mean, that's we have recognize an award every 4 years to all the ASEAN champion school in all ASEAN country. So this happened in from the 2012 as well, and the last one we have also at the 17th ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Environment in Laos, PDO, in August 2023. So I mean, as Ibu mentioned, it's Indonesia school always been on the top of the ASEAN Eco School Award as always. So this, because of your local initiative, quite important, and also with the leadership of Ministry of Environment and Forestry, and I believe this will be continued stronger and stronger as a role model in the region. Now this education, that youth in the education sector as well, that we also try to be in, you know, make them in the loop and also engage them actively to negotiate and talk to the all ASEAN leaders. And also in the +3, we have different sort of event for build capacity and understanding, engage in the clean up activity, and as well as other environmental matter. So I just flash here as a Brunei chairmanship as well. So just for your reference. And also from the biodiversity aspect, we have ASEAN Eco Champion Award. Maybe time up or what? Okay, and then, so all of this just ASEAN initiative to let you know that. And now, my key message here is it's quite simple. Just to inform you, ASEAN is committed to work the realize sustainable climate as stipulated in ASEAN Social Cultural Community Blueprint 2025. Hello, yeah. Next point, ASEAN continue to work collaboratively across ASEAN body and stakeholders, especially youth and school, geared toward promotion of sustainable development and climate resilient future. Next one, all environmental education material. I believe this is the most important, should be freely accessible by general public and on the public domain, because right now everyone's, you know, access on the smartphone, fingerprint, and so on. So I believe the next step is try to make all the information available on the public domain. More effort needs to be in place for making more key reference material available and accessible in local languages, because I think ASEAN is quite diverse. Even in Indonesia, certain community may not be understand full in the Indonesian Bahasa per se, may need to reflect that accordingly. So this, in order to make everyone join hand, I mean the communication material and education material should be in the local language as much as we can. Documentation of local practice and share among different community, school in ASEAN and the region. I think there's a lot of things progress in Indonesia school that can be documented, and that's not yet, I cannot see yet. I may wish to document it because 5,760 something school. It's significant. It may need to be documented and networked. I believe this may be strong. Promote more study, visit, and learning by doing. Engage with all stakeholder, environmental education and action, school, parent, community, and so on. So I think environmental education should be reflect and integrate also social learning agenda or events such as religion, community event, because this not limit just only in the formal education or university research, but also community practices and also religion, in the, prayer time or anything that can be involved. I think because this is for the common sense, for the good, for the planet and for the people. With that, I believe this will contribute important. With the great success of Indonesia Green School program, I think I also can see this really contribute important as a role model to support ASEAN and other schools in Indonesia. With that reason, I would like to call for support and involve in any all of you to join hands with the Indonesia as well as ASEAN in order to promote this formal and informal to build more resilient for ASEAN community. So with that, feel free to join us and congrats for our great achievement of our Indonesia and also continues growing with all the support from all the partners as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Fong. Now we have Ms. Habiba Al-Marashi, co-founder and chairperson of Emirates Environmental Group. She will discuss about sharing experience on environmental action in UAE. And EEG, or Emirates Environmental Group, is a professional working group devoted for protecting the environment through the means of education, action programs, and community empowerment. So you have 10 minutes, Ms. Habiba.
Inshallah.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. Okay. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of your session. And welcome to Dubai and the UAE. And I hope you are having a good time and you have had time to go and see our beautiful cities and Emirates. So as you rightly said, Emirates Environmental Group is the first environmental non-government organization established in the United Arab Emirates in 1991, when environment was not on the agenda of many entities, not only in this part of the world, but throughout the countries in different regions. We are a membership-based organization, so we have many members, corporations, academic institutions, families, students, individuals, and that's what forms the entity. And we work, of course, with different stakeholders to raise awareness about different sustainability issues, as well as to engage the different sectors of the society. This is a unique country. We have 204 nationalities living with us, some of them very small period of time, so that's why it's labeled as a transient society. But now we are seeing people staying much longer period. So who are we? And what constitutes the work that we do? We are the first environmental non-government organization in the world to be ISO 14001 certified for our environmental management systems. We are an accredited member of United Nations Environment Program, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertifications. We are members of part of United Nations Environment Program as well, but that deals with marine litter. And it's a global platform, and we play a very active role in there. We were the first NGO in the Gulf countries to join the UN Global Compact, and we established the network for the GCC states. So we pushed the agenda, the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact within the corporations in the regions. We are members of the World Packaging Organization through the work that we do on the ground. And we are as well members of the Sustainable Food System, which is a coalition of part of the United Nations Environment Program. So you can see the diversity of the entities that we are actively involved on and we build partnership with. And I always invite NGOs and encourage them from different parts of the world to find which are the UN bodies that are in alignment with the objective of that organizations and to join them to build the capacity both ways. We work with academia in the country, and we have thousands of academic institutions from nurseries to undergraduates, not only in the United Arab Emirates, but across the Arab world. We deal, it's okay, I have my water there. We deal with corporations, and we have identified corporations to be our strategic partners in the work that we do. We work with government bodies, and we have built a very strong partnerships across the Emirates. This is a country that has got 7 emirates, so every emirate has got its own legal structure, government that runs its affairs. So we have the local governments, and then we have the federal governments as well. We work with families. We have 204 nationalities, so we deal with different nationalities through different platforms to reach out to the families. We work with communities, and I mean communities. So for every single nationality, there's a community that people interact with and close relation with. And we reach out to these communities, whether through their religious platform or through their social platforms, and we manage to engage with them. And again, that's a very important aspect of being engaged with all stakeholders and understanding what is going on and being able to bring them into the fold of the work that we do, as well as we work with like-minded civil organizations. So Emirates Environmental Group was established in 91, as I mentioned, but in 2004 we established the Arabia CSR Network, which is a corporate social responsibility network, and it deals a lot with corporations, with government entities, not only in the UAE, but across the Arab region, to build the capacities on issues of corporate social responsibility and sustainability. We have a forum in there, we have an award. So that's one NGO. We have the other NGO, which is the Emirates Green Building Council that we established in 2006, and to deal a lot with the built environment. And today, as you go through, this is a sustainable city. Expo 2020 is a sustainable city. Every single building that has been built here has adhered to green building requirements and standards. So it's one of the greenest green buildings, expos around the world. Like in every platform, we have strong objectives. Our objectives is to engage with the government, to build the capacity, to spread the message, to bring the expertise that we have on the ground, to liaise and work with them closely, to identify the challenges that are on the ground and turn them into objectives, deliver proper action plans for them and strategies to enable us to implement on them and bring them to the forefront and bring the different sectors of the society to understand those issues. We have focused on the different challenges that within the country, and we have turned them into objectives, and we work on delivering. We do many platforms, and I will take you through that. I know I have a limited time, so that's why I'm rushing through the presentations, but you can get a lot of our information if you go on our website to get what we do. Today's session here focuses on education. Education for sustainability, education for environmental protection. Our platform started from 1992 with educating the different education institutions with the different curriculums that we have on the ground. And we have thousands of education institutions that are members with EEG, and we work with them very closely. Amongst our areas of focus is waste management and recycling. And again, why did we identify this? Because this is one of the very effective platforms that you can engage and mobilize the different sectors of the society, and you can bring about positive change by actually doing. And this is learning by doing. So we started with recycling different programs, and I will take you through that as well. And we have many community engagement platforms. One that we are actually at the moment actively engaged in, I'll take you through that. And as well as our platform to engage with the corporate world. Our educational programs are spread throughout the year, and they are designed to deal with the different levels and age groups. So our first program is environmental drawing competition. This is a competition that we do to the 6 to 8 years old, and we put different sustainability issues. But through the artwork, we are building their capacity. We work with the teachers to develop the concept note. It is sent to the schools that are participating. They take time in different sessions to explain that issue. And then the children are asked to draw those issues. So in 2023, we managed to engage more than 122,000 students in schools all over the UAE, not only in normal schools, in schools with special needs as well. So this is just to show you what we did this year. Just imagine this program started in 2004, how many students we have managed to engage in this particular program. We have the other program that is very popular, started in 2001. It is a competition. It's a public speaking competition, but the topics are environmental topics. And we do not decide the topics. It's the students themselves that decide the topics. So through the feedback process that we receive from them, you know, there are so many topics that they've put. And these topics are thematized, and then they are clustered under the titles, and it is rolled out to the students. You can never imagine the types of topics that these students bring to the fore. We have talked about different issues, about energy conservation, water conservation, behavior, social behavior of human beings. We've talked about artificial intelligence. We've talked about laws and regulations. And these are young students from the age of 13 to 15 and then 16 to 18 years. So they are on the verge of entering universities and colleges. They are given very limited time to present the case, identify the problem, and suggest the solutions. Of course, it is judged by bilingual environmental experts. It's a bilingual competition, so students have the ability to present in English or in Arabic. As you can see, this is this year's participation. These are the direct students that we engage with. The indirect are many times more. The Intercollege is a program that covers universities and colleges in the Arab world, not only in the UAE. And because of COP, this program took place in end of November, usually does. And because we are on the doors of COP at that time, we opened it up to the world. And that's why you see we had 24 countries participating. We had universities from Indonesia as well participating. Very well presented ladies, very capable in their presentations. Again, the strong issues that we talk about, phasing out fossil fuels. We talk about international environmental laws. We talk about the plastic pollution. So many issues that are very pertinent, that are connected. We're talking about loss of biodiversity and the impact on human beings. We talked during COVID as well on issues that were related for health and environmental issues, connecting those issues. We connect between natural disasters and environmental impact. Climate change is a part and parcel of the work that we roll out throughout the year. We have another session, students' workshop, and we have a full-fledged, you can see the number of schools that we engage with, as well as a corporate, school outreach or academic outreach throughout the year. These are some of the pictures to give you an idea of this type of programs that we do throughout the year, engaging the student community and hands-on with the teachers, with the faculty, with the management of the schools. How do you incorporate environmental education within the curriculum and extra curriculum? We have worked with many schools in developing the green spaces in the schools, developing vegetable gardens in the schools, all utilizing either wastewater recycled or drip water system or the water that comes from the air conditioning. So what we have managed to engage since we started our educational program directly, more than 750,000 students throughout the different programs and more than 12,000 education institutions. Now, this is a new country. This is a country that started in 1971. Many of you who are teenagers or just being born, 52 years, we celebrated this year, and Emirates Environmental Group is 32 years. So when we started, I still have my water. We started with recycling, segregation of waste at source, understanding the concept in the school communities, in the boundaries of the schools. And that is where the strength of these programs, and that is how it poured into the wider community. That is how we were able to reach the families in the different societies. That is how the government then took notice of these programs and turned them into proper systems. Our programs cover all the UAE, not only in Dubai. On a daily basis, we have teams that go out, and we partner with collection companies as well to collect these 8 materials. Why only these 8? Because these are the factories that we have them now here in the United Arab Emirates, and they have built as we were moving. So every material we started collecting because there was a factory that will take it off our hand, and I will share with you some of the numbers that we have. 2 more minutes, okay. So for aluminium collection, we have managed to collect more than 400,000 paper, more than every single kg of the material that has been collected is very well tabulated into the system. These are numbers that I wanted to share with you. And these are all educating platform. And these are teaching the community through actual part. There's a strong incentive part in there. And I wanted to show you all that. What does that mean in environmental numbers? So we have managed to mitigate more than 97,000 metric tons of CO2 emissions. We have managed to save more than 150,000 cubic meters of landfill space. We are nicely phasing out the concept of waste to landfills. So apart from waste to recycling, we are now very much having on the ground in the UAE more than one facility that takes waste to energy. So this is again one of the areas that we have been very effective. We have managed to save a lot of energy, and we have managed to prevent trees from being cut in different parts of the world. So if you look at that, it's 452,000 trees. For us as a desert environment, this is a number that is very important. So our action on the ground has had a global impact in the different ways that we do our programs. Many community programs, and I advise usually NGOs, do not make your work seasonal. All the time bring innovative programs that will motivate, inspire, and engage the different sectors of the society. All these waste management programs connect with recycling as well as with tree planting on the ground in the different parts. And these are, again, continuation. Can collection is a very popular program. We have the Clean UAE, which we started on the 5th of December. It will conclude on the 16th of December. We've already covered 2 Emirates. Tomorrow we will be we'll go in early in the morning, and every day we move from one Emirate to the other. We have an incentive awarding ceremony. We have tree planting programs. This is our schedule for the Clean UAE in the United Arab Emirates. And this is a program that has been going on for the last 22 years. I hope one of the things you are observing is the continuity of our program. When we roll a program, it should not stop. So we are always looking of ways of engaging more, making deeper inroads, and recording more numbers. These are the numbers of people that we have engaged throughout from 2002. This is the size of land that we have managed to clean, and this is the amount of waste that we have managed to clean from the different spaces and send them for recycling as well. This is the final one, I'm sorry. The Emirates Recycling Awards. It's been going on for the last 27 years. Very popular program amongst the different sectors of the society. This is our tree planting program, and this is how much we have managed to plant from 2007 until today. This is December. We have extensive tree planting program in the different Emirates. So 2,120,000 trees, 712, and that is how much CO2 emission we are mitigating from the environment on an annual basis. And I come to the end of my presentation. These are some of the pictures, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Habibah. Very impressive presentation. And last but not least, Ibu Dian Anis Purbasari. She's Vice Chairperson of Bhakti Barito Foundation, and she will deliver sustainable initiatives through environmental education. Time is yours, Ibu Dian. I think 10 minutes probably.
Thank you. Please allow me to introduce myself. I am Dian Purbasari. I am the director of the Bhakti Barito Foundation. It's a corporate foundation of the Barito Pacific Group. So we are the largest diverse energy especially for geothermal energy in Indonesia. And we are very proud that we have been supporting the programs of the government of Indonesia in the Green School. And as we know, we like to partner with our government and then supporting the program such that we can scale the impact. So I'm happy that I am the last person to speak in this forum because then I can wrap up everything. And I'm inviting you to wrap it up in this micro documentary film. It's about 8 minutes, so please bear with me. And I hope the subtitle is on. Please watch the movie. Thank you.
Perkenalkan, nama aku Raisa Salsabila, biasa aku. Cita-citaku mau menjadi ustazah.
Cita-citaku mau menjadi ustad.
Cita-cita aku pengen menjadi guru.
Cita-cita aku mau jadi pilot. Raisa, bangun. Raisa, gerah-gugah bisi kasiangan.
Ya Bu, tos gugah pada siap-siap.
Sok nggak bisi kasiangan, gerah siap-siap.
Perkenalkan, nama aku Raisa Salsabila, biasa dipanggil Raisya. Aku sekolah di SDN 2 Karya Mekar, Garut kelas 6. Cita-citaku menjadi tentara.
Akhir-akhir ini Raisa itu kurang bersemangat ya untuk sekolah. Dia susah dibangunin, males untuk sarapan, susah untuk siap-siap pergi sekolah. Padahal dia itu anak yang berprestasi ya. Entah apa yang membuat Raisa jadi seperti itu.
Ma, aku angkat dulu ya.
Iya. Hati-hati ya, Nak.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Maaf ya, Ibu gak bisa ngasih yang enak.
Ya Bu, gak apa-apa, ini juga udah enak.
Kamu anak baik, anak Ibu.
Aku berangkat dulu Bu.
Oh iya, hati-hati ya di jalanannya.
Iya Bu. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Kurang bersemangat sebetulnya. Kalau boleh jujur, semua ini karena kondisi sekolah yang semakin hari semakin memburuk. Halaman sekolah yang masih tanah ini, kalau musim panas berdebu, dan kalau hujan sepatu kita sudah pasti kotor. Ditambah lagi sampah yang berserakan di mana-mana. Cuci tangan gak bisa karena rusak, keran airnya juga gak ada. Kadang kalau lagi belajar di kelas atapnya bolong-bolong, takutnya sewaktu-waktu pas lagi belajar ambruk. Kalau kondisinya kayak gini gimana mau semangat sekolahnya?
Saya ditugaskan ke sekolah ini pada tahun 2022. Kebetulan pertama kali itu saya didatangi oleh Yayasan Bakti Barito. Mereka itu adalah untuk membina dan mengedukasi terutama mengenai lingkungan dan fasilitas pendidikan.
Nah, jadi adik-adik, kalau kita mau menjaga lingkungan itu kita banyak tindakannya. Salah satunya kita harus bisa memilah sampah. Nah, karena ternyata sampah itu mempunyai nilai dalam rupiah gitu teman-teman. Nah, jangan lupa disampaikan juga ke orang tuanya, mulai dari sekarang harus mulai menjaga lingkungan.
Raisa. Sejak kedatangan mereka, duniaku berubah. Bagiku kini sekolah adalah hal yang sangat menyenangkan.
Gening, anak mama udah siap, udah cantik mau sekolah. Tong hilapnya, iya dicanakan sampah plastiknya ke sekolah. Sok sini, ambil sampah, nak.
Berangkat dulu ya, Mak.
Hati-hatinya. Assalamualaikum. Waalaikumsalam, dadah.
Sampah anorganik dikumpulkan dan dibawa sama Raisa ke sekolah. Seusai saya dikasih tahu oleh Raisa tentang betapa pentingnya pengelolaan sampah dan di situ ada nilainya. Dan saya juga ikut pelatihan di Learning Center dan di situ saya banyak sekali dapat pengalaman dan ilmu tentang pengelolaan sampah. Saya jadi tahu ya tentang pemilahan sampah organik dan anorganik. Sampah organik dapat saya buat menjadi pupuk untuk tanaman-tanaman saya dan juga maggot untuk pakan dan juga saya dikenalkan dengan ember simantan.
Sekolahku sekarang kelihatan bersih. Semua siswa-siswi sudah sadar akan pentingnya sampah untuk dipilah. Bahkan ada yang namanya tabungan sampah. Setiap 1 kilogram sampah plastik aku akan dapat uang 2.000. Sekarang tabunganku 19.400. Gak ada lagi debu. Dan kalau hujan di halaman sekolah aman, gak akan bikin kotor sepatu karena ada biopori buat resapan airnya.
Kalau udah terpilah itu ya kita gampang di sini ngolahnya gitu Pak. Perbedaannya itu dari harganya Pak. Harga kresek itu ya minim lah. Kalau botol ya dari botol-botol itu lumayan ada lah.
Nah, ini sampah plastik kresek seperti ini. Ini kan dulu dianggap residu ya. Padahal seiring dengan perjalanan di Garut khususnya bahwa ini bisa menjadi asupan daripada campuran dari aspal sehingga itu dikatakan aspal plastik. Kuncinya adalah pertama komitmen tentu saja. Kedua adalah kolaboratif ya. Komitmen dari siapa? Komitmen dari semua, dari pemerintah daerah, kemudian dari dinas lingkungan hidupnya, kemudian dari kecamatan, RT, RW dan sebagainya. Termasuk juga tadi kolaborasinya yang lebih utama. Kolaborasi dengan masyarakat, kolaborasi dengan swasta juga ya, termasuk juga sekolah dan komunitas.
Mereka itu ingin memberikan renovasi dari bagian-bagian sekolah yang rusak, yang sudah tidak layak di sekolah kami. Di antaranya adalah drainase, toilet siswa, toilet guru, dan wastafel. Watertornya yaitu penampungan air hujan. Alhamdulillah sekolah kami setelah adanya drainase, bantuan air jalan yang tadinya gersang menjadi hijau.
Bahagia banget. Sekolah direnovasi, lebih banyak tanaman, bak tempat sampah diganti yang lebih layak. Semangat sekolah.
Saya juga senang ya tentang perubahan Raisa. Yang paling penting dia jadi lebih semangat untuk belajar.
Meskipun kehidupan kami banyak keterbatasan, tapi dia tetap semangat, terutama dalam belajar. Sudah merupakan nikmat yang sangat besar bagi keluarga kami. Kamu anak yang baik, anak yang baik.
Waalaikumsalam. Saya awalnya bingung dan juga saya terharu. Dari mana dia dapat
buku yang dia inginkan. Dan saya tanya ke Raisa.
Dari hasil kelola sampah.
Betul.
Nah, akhirnya kita mengevaluasi bahwa ketergantungan daripada sampah ke TPA ini harus dikurangi, gitu kan. Dikurangi dengan cara apa? Ya tadi pengolahan sampah di dekat dulu. Upaya-upaya pengurangan ini tentu saja dengan adanya sekolah adiwiyata, gitu kan, dengan adanya pengurangan oleh beberapa komunitas, bank sampah dan sebagainya. Ini menjadi salah satu upaya yang harus terus digalakkan, diupayakan supaya sampah ke TPA ini berkurang. Jadi ketergantungan sampah ke TPA ini berkurang.
So thank you. So I think next presentation, please. Clicker. So what we do is an integrated scheme. So not only we educate the students, but also we link the school into the local recyclers. And then also we link the local recyclers with the innovation for the low value plastics. So that's why we also not only educate, but we can also do the circular economy within the waste management system. And from the education part, we also do not only to empowering the teachers and students, but also we do the educational tools that we develop, and then we work together with the Ministry of Education to publish it online, and it's accessible by all students in all over Indonesia. So why we think that this is very important? Because we think that the students, the younger generation, this is elementary schools from age 7 to 12, age 6 to 12. So they will be the ones who will bear the climate change. So we are doing the climate change mitigation, but there must be climate change ready. So we have to prepare the mindset, the framework, the frame of mind of these children, how to cope with because we are already in the climate change, how to cope with the future. And so this is why we are aiming to the elementary schools. And then our mission also, as a corporate foundation, is to oversee our subsidiaries to be aligned with the SDGs. And then these are the subsidiaries. We have energy, and then petrochemical, and then synthetic rubber, and properties. So we are operating mostly in Java Island, which is the most populated island in Indonesia, and then also in Sumatra and in Sulawesi. I hope I did not get too much of the time. Thank you very much, and looking forward for your collaboration.
Thank you very much, Ibu Dian. Big applause to our speakers. Now we are in the Q&A session. I think we have two. If there is there are two questions, I give opportunity for two people. Okay, first is Ibu Dia, and then anybody. So please mention your name and the question for which speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, moderator, and thank you for all esteemed speakers for very interesting presentations. So my question is very simple. What is the most difficult challenges you have encountered in building these climate resilient communities, both formally and informally. And what is usually the solution for both? I heard that some speakers, especially from the Emirates, mentioned that finding some challenges in the field while doing this activity. So I want to hear this challenge and solution in a local and national perspective from a speaker from Indonesia and Emirates perhaps, and also the challenge and solutions in regional and international collaboration perspective for our speaker from ASEAN. Maybe that's all, as moderator. Thank you so much.
Can you have your name?
Oh, sorry. My name is Dia. I'm from Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you. And the second one?
Hello, my name is Ray. I had the pleasure to live in Indonesia over the last year, working on community-based projects. Maybe I'm too close to the speaker. And the number one thing that I faced and what I witnessed speaking with the communities in Indonesia is the lack of funding in the local government region and the amount of corruption that was in the local governments with the mafia and all that stuff. And there's so many incredible community-led projects that are lacking access to either communication through the government or even just funding. So I guess if you have any insight on how do these community-led projects similar to the one that you showed us get on the ground when there is so much corruption on the local government level. Thank you.
Thank you. Your name, please?
Ray.
Ray, okay. I think we will start from Ibu Dian. Okay, from Ibu Habibah, and then Ibu Dian, and then Dr. Fong, and Ibu Sinta will wrap up the answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dia, for your question. I will say that there will be different challenges for different sectors and different countries and different regions. But the one that you see very much so is the lack of commitment. So you need to build that commitment. For me, education was the best tool, continues to be the best tool. Educating is not only through the formal curriculum, you are educating throughout the year to change human behavior. Once you achieve in changing human behavior, the results are marvelous and incredible. So when you are working with the education institutions, you are working with the students. Yesterday, I was in the morning in one of the areas in Dubai with 1,168 boys from one of the secondary schools. But we take them on an annual basis to do cleanup, to understand. And as I see every year when we go to different areas, the number of students increase, the amount of waste decreases. It means our message is resonating and getting, because these students are from the same local community. And we take them to clean their own neighborhoods and their own surroundings. So they are very much connecting the two, that this is my environment, this is my neighborhood, this is where I'm living, this is where I get healthy or sick because of what is around me. So when you show them that and when you hands-on engage them in that, and at the end of the day, they see the bags and the bags of material, and they know that it is themselves and their neighbors and the wider community in that particular area, these are the messages that then resonate well and they get actively involved. And we do have incentive platforms. We have certificates of appreciations, we have vouchers that we give to the schools and the families, we have electronics that we give to the schools. So they see that there is value added. You reward the good behavior. And that is where it encourages more. As an NGO, I am not an authority that I can enforce laws and regulations, but I can incentivize. And that's what I use, the incentivification process, which is very, very effective, and building the capacity in the different platforms that we have. I hope I've managed to answer. Okay.
So, That's okay. So what are the challenges? We have around 512 regions and municipalities, and they are autonomous and decentralized government, and each one has its own leadership, and sometimes the leadership are really good and sometimes may not be as good as the others. So what we need to have this engagement with the local government and also the local NGO. So I think wherever we are, the most important thing, the first time that we have to do is to build the engagement, the communication, and then the bond with the community and also with the government. That's why everywhere we go, we try to put at least the tripartite, and if not the pentahelix coordination or partnership. So that's what we do. But it takes time. It takes time. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello. I think I have only few words. I think it's quite important as a part of human society. One of the accelerated and advanced society till now, it's about education. Education, as Ibu just mentioned, it makes very different for our society. So start from education, people understand, accept it, and make change. So to me, challenge, the more we identify challenge, the more we identify problem, bog down with the problem. To me, it's about just action, do it, lead it, and also try to be adaptive and continue to improve. I mean, nothing perfect in this planet. Human as a part of puzzle of the issue. This is part of problem making by human, and this human have to make a difference. And I believe with all of us that we continue to do, engage, this will make a difference and never end environmental issue. I can assure you, never ever end by tomorrow morning or by next year. It will continue to happen in different form, different shape, different sort of magnitude. We need to work together and then continue to improve, and no need to concern about the challenge and constraint, just moving in the best capacity of all of us. So with that, I hope all of us will move around and take action on the ground. Thank you very much.
You mind if I add one more point for them, yeah? I mentioned about incentivizing, but incentivizing has to be strategic. So you have seen on the screen, we have Emirates Recycling Awards, which is going on for the last 27 years. We have the Arabia CSR Awards going on for the 17 years. You have the MENA Green Building Award going on for the last 15 years. So you have to have the continuity, and you have to have a different platform. Everybody likes to be recognized for good deeds. So when you have this proper structure, through these awards, you are actually teaching them, because you are putting proper criteria and methodology and all that. So while they are applying for these awards, they are learning a lot. And that learning is continuous. So they cannot go back to square number one after winning the award and after learning what should be done to be the correct way. And that is how you then impact the continuous improvement and continuous positive change.
I think
I'd like to add just one question I forgot to mention. Ray mentioned about funding, okay? There are two things. Number one is from the corporation around the area, but I would prefer the number two. Number two is that Indonesia is been known for the gotong royong, which means collaboration and cooperation. If the people really feel and see the vision, the goal, the objective is really important and very resonate to them, they will move without anything else, without needing to be, we needing to be any more motivation than other internal motivation. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have 1 minute just closing from Ibu Sinta, please?
Okay, thank you, Ibu. Very nice of you to share with us. But yeah, actually last week we in Ministry of Environment and Forestry, we do boot camp for high school students related to Corruption International Day. So we try to engage, we try to integrate how environmental issue is very close related to integration. Very related to integration. So in, you know, there is a Corruption International Day, right, in December. So yeah, we do make a boot camp for the high school students to integrate how environmental issue can relate it to integrate integrity, something like that. So yeah, we do close work together with the local government, and our best, very great challenge is the law of awareness. There is a survey that the Indonesian awareness for the waste, for example, is only 26%, something like that. So 3 words from me as a closing as well. First, we have to educate. Second, we have to empower. The third, we have to engage. Maybe that's all the conclusion.
Thank you very much. I think this